there, welcome back to the Win a Pageant podcast. I'm your coach, Alicia Darby. In today's episode, you get to listen in on an interview that I had with one of my clients in the inner circle, who's now become a friend of mine, Kama Montermini. Now, Kama is such a rock star. First of all, she's the mom to three boys. That's a lot of boys, okay? But that's not the only reason that she is a rock star. She is superbly adventurous. In fact, we cover how her husband proposed to her in this interview. I cannot wait for you to hear this story. It is so much fun. It's unbelievable. You got to listen to that. And she shares about how one of her children, her youngest, has special needs and how that impacted her life and how her and her husband and their entire family took that on as an adventure, but really how they grew through that. Her son is now living with them as an adult in his 20s and thriving. You got to hear the story. It's unbelievable, the miracles that he has stepped into now as a result of being loved on by his brothers and by his family and stuff. It's such an incredible story. I'm going to let her tell you all the details. And what's so cool is that she recently launched a book that she self-published through Amazon. I'm going to share the link with you as well. She launched this book in order to support and fund the platform that this foundation that she created called Survive, Strive, and Thrive. Kama believes in being a victor and not a victim, and you will see this throughout her entire interview. So please welcome Kama to the Win a Pageant podcast. Hey there, Kama. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Win a Pageant podcast. It is awesome having you here.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I'm really looking forward to having our conversation today.
Oh, good. And I love your background. Like when we first got on, I was like, look how fancy she looks. I like this. Like it was
Thank
fun.
you.
In our inner circle, it's so fun because we all kind of show up just like, whatever's happening around us and wherever we're at. And then, when we go to something like this, we're like, okay, now we got to get professional, So I like it. I like your style.
Pull out all the stops.
That's right. Exactly.
Awesome.
Like a true pageant girl would, right? I would expect nothing less. Absolutely. Yeah. So cool, Kama. I shared a little bit with the audience already in your bio and to introduce you a bit, but I would love to hear from your words. If you would just share a little bit about your story and kind of how you decided to create and get into the work that you are doing now.
Absolutely. So I've been married for, almost 34 years in November. Wow. And I met my husband at the store I was working at, and we got married and had three children, three sons. So I'm a mother of three boys. And our youngest son was born with special needs. So that kind of put my life into a different trajectory than I had intended. But we just, embraced everything and went down that direction. And we've had a wonderful life.
Yeah. I love your optimism with that because it's so true. You are like the most adventurous grown-up that I know. Like, I love how, in fact, can you tell the story about how you and your husband got engaged? I love this.
Yes. So my husband, when he was in high school, he decided that whoever he married, this is how he was going to propose. And he had decided that he was going to jump out of an airplane. And so we went to a skydiving class, and I had no idea this was happening. And we went through the class, and then we jumped out of an airplane, and we had the gentleman who jumped out before us had a video camera. And I thought it was just going to be something we were going to share with our grandkids someday, but I had no idea that it was going to be a proposal. And as I was floating down with my gigantic parachute, there was a big 100-foot long sign that said, "Kama, will you marry me?" So that's how he proposed to me. It was absolutely amazing. And there was a limo waiting there with a black velvet pillow with my ring on it to deliver it. And if there was a red rose on it, it was just very, very romantic.
How beautiful.
Very fun.
I love this smart guy that he didn't bring the ring. He's not like flying around with the ring, so thank goodness he didn't do that.
No, he had a smaller parachute, so he landed before I did, which was obviously the intention. Yes. But it was just so funny because I said, what if I wouldn't have said yes to skydiving? And he said, then I wouldn't have married you. He wanted somebody that would go through life with him and do fun things.
Hey, and it's paid off.
Choice.
And it's paid off, right? Like you guys are incredible. Can you share some of the other adventurous things that you have happening in your life?
Oh, sure. We actually live on a boat, which is actually really fun. We live in the South Sound, and we live on a big boat with our special needs son. And this is our second time doing it. We loved it so much the first time, and then we bought a house, and we're like, this just isn't doing it for us. So we ended up going back to a boat, and this time we got a little bit bigger boat with a little bit more amenities, and it is just fantastic. We've also gone whitewater rafting, and we like jumping off of bridges and into the water, and jumping off the cliffs in Jamaica.
We like jumping off of bridges, like no big deal. That's the thing your mom always said. If someone else were going to jump off a bridge, would you too? And you're like,
I'd probably.
Sure thing, Mama.
If it looks fun.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. That is great. Oh man, it's so cool. And it's such a beautiful thing. You mentioned that you live there with your son. And how old is Eli now?
He's 26.
He's 26 years old. And
yeah.
It's incredible that your heart, and I know that those of us who do not have a child with special needs sometimes can't even imagine what that life must be like, especially with an adult son. But you guys do it, and you make it work in such a beautiful and loving way. And I think that that's part of the testament to just your adventurous qualities. God knew that you would take good care of Eli and was able to gift him to you. It's such a special thing. Can you share a little bit about what that was like for your other boys? Because they were older, right? Eli is your youngest?
Eli's my youngest, yes. So I had Chad and Rand. Chad was 6 and Rand was about 3. They were just beautiful children. We thought they wanted a sister. So we thought, okay, let's try for the sister. And so we ended up having Eli. And he immediately ended up being transferred up to Children's Hospital right away. And that was kind of the start of being thrown into a tailspin that we really never, like when you say I can't imagine, we couldn't either.
Yeah,
but you kind of just take it by the horns, and you have to do it. And honestly, watching him grow, he's 26 now. He has had 36 surgeries, and he has had countless, medical interventions and therapy, and every step of the way, he has been the most delightful child. He's happy all the time. He doesn't even know what he's been through because it's just his life. And he is just my hero every day. Every day I just look at him and like, wow, I wish we could all be as pure and joyful as Eli.
Yeah, that's incredible. Wow. And that's a testament to you as his mom, I believe, creating that for him and creating an incredible life for him to step into and to be able to lead.
Right.
So,
well, and he had 2 older brothers. So the 2 older brothers, they just took it, right away and just loved him and embraced whatever he was going through. They are very sympathetic, very empathetic, very sweet brothers. And I think they made it wonderful for him. They actually took him to school and used him for show and tell and shared it with their friends and actually really opened up a world to other students and other children who hadn't been exposed to special needs people before. So it ended up being a beautiful thing, and he's just been so loved. And it's one of the things as a mother having a special needs son, one of my first things is like, the pain he's going to go through being teased and all of the there's so much bullying with typical developing students there's nothing different about them at all. And just to think that he might go through that, and I have to say he never was bullied. He always just was very well accepted, and I think that's a testament to how his brothers just scooped him along and kind of shared him with everybody and showed that he was a fun, loving, amazing brother.
It's so cool. Yeah. And I love this story of these 3 brothers, which is the premise for your new book that is, as of the release of this podcast, should be published by then. So it will be available to people. Can you share a little bit about the book?
Yes, so I wrote a book. It's a book that's been needing to be written for a really long time. It actually only took me an hour to sit down and actually get it on paper because it was always in my mind. And I always wanted to do something to help people understand what it is to be around a special needs younger person, especially because I'd seen how much my son's friends had grown from being around him. And so I wanted to write a book to help fund my charity, Survive, Strive, and Thrive. I wanted to fund that somehow during COVID. I had all these fundraisers planned to help fund all of my goals and adventures with my charity, but I had to cancel all of them. So I thought, well, what can I do? I'm like, okay, it's definitely God has led me down this path. It's time to write that book that I've been thinking about writing. So I just sat down and wrote it out, and I decided that it was going to be not just to tell a little bit about our story, but also to use as a tool for parents who might have children who have a friend that might have special needs, or maybe they have a student in school that might have special needs, or just somebody in their neighborhood, so that I can share this book with their children and say, like they just want what everyone else wants. And so it's just kind of open up the discussion. I mean, I think just communication and opening it up so it's not a scary subject.
That's right. Oh yeah. That's incredible. And so the title of the book, I want to get it right, Special Elliot, the story of a special needs sibling.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is so cool. And this is really written as a children's book, right?
Yes. And it has more animated art in it. Because I want it to be really relatable and fun, and so it's really colorful, and it's a true story. So it's everything in it is true. Everything happened to us, and I just felt like I hope I delivered it in a way that's well received and not scary. Because we talked about earlier when I was writing it, you and I talked about scary thoughts for kids sometimes makes them uncomfortable. So I made it really happy and really safe for them to go, oh yeah, maybe we can just invite him to our birthday party.
Right.
That would be just as easy to invite him to a birthday party as some of my other friends. So it just helps them see a special needs peer in a different light, and like just one of them who wants the same things that they want as typical developing children.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. So I can imagine, because I've been through this with lots of other clients too, that writing a children's book, it sounds so easy. It's like, oh yeah, that's no big deal. You just write a kid's book. Like that's no big deal. And I know that you specifically had such grace in God bringing exactly the words on the page, but it doesn't just end there, right? There's so many other moving pieces, finding an illustrator and then getting it published on Amazon or wherever you choose. Can you talk a little bit about some of the roadblocks that you faced and how you overcame them?
Absolutely. So I was determined to get this book written and published. So, before my pageant, which is August 8th. So I was determined to have it written by then, because I'm a goal setter. And so I just dove in and I sent out my script to an editor. I used Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and I just put out a bid and said, who wants to do the editing on this? I got the editing back, and I really was hoping to use my oldest son. My oldest son, Chad, is an artist, and I really was hoping to use him as the illustrator because he's so talented. And so I sent the script to him, and he actually loved the story. But after he thought about it, it was a little too emotional for him to dive into it. So he actually called me back and said, I just feel like somebody else needs to do this. So then the next roadblock was like, okay, I'm still going to get this done. It only set me back about a week. So I said, I'm still going to get this book done. So I still have a goal, and I'm going to meet that goal. So I went back onto Fiverr, and I found an illustrator that had very simple. It's not original art, but it's fun and it's happy. And so he uses a great app that makes it really fun. And I sent pictures of my 3 children and said, can you make the characters kind of look like them? Yeah. And so and I renamed them. I had their original names in the script, and that seemed to be like a sensitive subject as well. Mm-hmm. So I changed the names. That's why Elliot turned into Elliot, so that it's a little bit more neutral, I guess, for our family, not quite as emotional. Yeah. Because even though it's a story about them and they've been through it, it's still my story too. So I wanted to tell it in a way that everybody was comfortable. Yeah. But as a parent of typically developing kids that came first, you really try really hard to make sure that you have all those conversations and you include them. But the fact is that they go through way more emotional things than a parent does. I mean, we're adults. They're children going through the same emotional traumas that I went through as a parent. And so to really have those come out during the process of the book really made me kind of take a step back and really analyze, is this really something that needs to happen? Is it really something that's going to benefit people? Is it just because I want to be published? I mean, so I really had to dig deep and go, okay, why am I doing this? And it circled back around that I'm doing this to help other people not have it be such a stigma in their lives like it might be for people that we've been exposed to. Yeah,
that's so cool. And it's true that, I mean, you carried this process with such grace, experiencing all of those things along the way. And even like feeling that, a time setback still is part of that healing process. I follow this woman, Gabby Bernstein, maybe you've heard of her, and she coaches authors. And part of her work is about using your book to heal for yourself, like as the author, allowing it to heal in the process. And it sounds like your book has done that, even as a children's book, not being your memoir. It's not like this whole thing, but it still is allowed to heal and bring up things.
And I'm not going to lie, I did cry when I was writing it, because I went back to photos and it's things that, like as a parent, I try and move forward and try and progress and be in the moment and be grateful for every day. I mean, my son wasn't supposed to ever walk or talk. And here's this child that is an artist. He graduated from high school. He won't be quiet. He always has something to say. The kid is amazing. So to be at that point and then to step back into the moment of what we went through during that process when he was born, it was very emotional for me. And it was something that I had to really dive into and just like release and just know, okay, I'm doing this to help other people. And once I got through it, and I shared it with Eli because it was a story about him. Yeah. And it was funny because he was like, oh, I didn't know those things, because he was a baby when all this happened. Right. So that made it really fun. It's like, he was like, oh, I didn't know that. So it was great.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So the proceeds of this book, so it's going to be sold on Amazon, am I right? Right. And you're donating the proceeds back to your foundation, which actually serves siblings of students or kids with special needs. Can you share a little bit about the foundation, Survive, Absolutely. Strive, and Thrive?
Yes. So Survive, Strive, and Thrive, I started something I've been, again, wanting to do for about 25 years since Eli was born. And I found out very quickly that all the services that are in place are there to help support the parents of the special needs child, and they're there to support the special needs child. But there's this population in the family that gets overlooked. And it's the siblings, and there really aren't very many services there. I actually was lucky enough to have a meeting with Don Meyer, and he is actually the gentleman who started Sib Shops. And so they do that on a quarterly basis. And Sib Shops was to help kind of have other children gather together who also had special needs siblings. And I just found that that was an awesome program, but it wasn't enough. And so I have always had this dream that I wanted to support and I've decided on the adults because they've already been through the fire. So now they're adults, and there's unrealized goals that they might not have met, or maybe there's dreams that they had when they were children that wasn't possible because they had this special needs person in their family. So like maybe a trip to Disneyland, or maybe they just want to go on a hike somewhere with other people that can relate to what their story is as well. So I started Survive, Strive, and Thrive for that purpose. And my goal is to support them and create a community so that they know that it's safe to speak about their true emotions with people who can understand and relate, and also to create adventures and scholarships. So I'm going to be scheduling adventures, and I'm probably going to take a group to Disneyland because I know that that's something. I took my kids to Disneyland, and it was so healing to go down there and just play. And so some of these adults are actually caring for their special needs siblings now that they're adults. So it just gives them an outlet for them to go, you know what? Because I have the special needs sibling, I get to do this really great thing. And then the scholarships will be available for people who want to go do their own adventures. And they're going to just write like a paper that explains to me their story and will explain to me what they want the funds for. And it'll be kind of like on a grant basis. Maybe they want to go to welding school, and their parents could afford to send them to welding school, and they might be 50 years old. I don't even care how old they are. Right. Just anybody who was raised with a special needs sibling, that's what it's there for. And so that's what the book's going to fund.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I just love the big vision of all of this coming together. And it's so beautiful to see what God is doing in your life and serving not just the student with special needs, the child. I say student all the time because I think as an educator, so everyone's a student in my mind.
I gotcha.
This child with special needs, but also the siblings, which to your point often get overlooked or don't have the resources or opportunities or emotional availability of the parents because they're with their other children. So it's so cool.
It's interesting to watch them because like my kids were they were completely involved. They weren't the kind of kids that were embarrassed about their brother. They actually embraced him and loved him. And that was really, I thanked God for that, that personality that my children possess to be able to do that. But even though we knew that, and even though we were very present in their lives as children, they still, as adults, have had challenges. And those challenges stem from living in chaos their whole life. They didn't know anything other than chaos. My son Eli would have a seizure, or he had these things called altas, and he'd stop breathing. And so one kid would dial 911, my husband and I would do CPR, and my other son would go out and flag down the fire truck. Well, for a 6 and a 3-year-old to go through that, they do it, and they seemed fine about it. But then as they are adults and they realize wow, that's not normal for kids to go through that. It affects them emotionally. And so it's a huge thing that's overlooked, and I really want to change that.
It's so cool. Well, you certainly are, Kama. This work that you're doing is so big and so powerful. The ripple effect, I am just believing that it's going to change lives, not just for the immediate people that it affects, but for all of those people that they come in contact with too. You know, that's the true ripple effect, I think, coming into action. And it's so beautiful how you've set up this, you know, and using the whole coronavirus stuff to leverage you, to launch you. Like, I just think that that's beautiful. While so many other people are like, well, I guess we can't do anything over here. And you're like, what can I do? You know, and crack up this whole new idea and say, hey, this is going to be what we do. It's brilliant.
Yeah. I don't like any roadblocks, and I don't like to ever think like a victim. And so I was feeling like, well, I can't do that. But like, what can I do? And that makes, I really try and go into the victor mentality instead of the victim mentality. So I still have great big plans, audacious goals that I really want to chapter in every state of the United States, survive, strive, and thrive. So, but I'm starting local. And I'm going to start funding local adventures. And then my goal is to branch out and just go, you know, nationwide. So, so I'm really excited about that.
Oh, it's brilliant. So I'm thinking about some people listening right now who are perhaps thinking like, I have a sibling with special needs, or perhaps they're raising somebody right now with special needs or something, and they want to get involved or they want to contribute in some way. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, I think the best way is they can either email me at Montermini at gmail.com, or they can go to my Facebook, that is just Montermini, and they can send me a message, either a private message, or they can post on there and just say, hey, I'm a sibling, let's get connected, and I will reach out. And I do have a Facebook group. It's a private group, and I will be adding anybody who, like, you know, we'll talk and make sure that it's the right situation, because I want it to be good for everybody and positive. So as soon as we have a conversation and find out what their story is, then I will add them to that group, and we're starting a community so that people feel safe sharing personal things that they might not feel safe posting publicly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love this. Gosh, and I'll make sure we've got those linked below this on YouTube and the podcast and stuff, so that people can just go directly to that and find your email address and reach out to you immediately. Perfect. So that is awesome. Oh, wow.
And then the book will be available on Amazon. So it'll be, it's called Special Elliot, the story of a special needs sibling. And so you can just, you know, search it on Amazon, and I think it's 70% of the cover cost will go directly into my foundation. So
cool. Wow. So just by buying the book, people will be able to support this mission that you are on. Oh, it's so incredible. That's so awesome. Wow, Kama. I just want to take a moment to honor the work that you are doing right now in the world, because this takes a deep experience that you've undergone throughout your entire, through Eli's entire life. Elliot is the stage name. But through his entire life, the work that you've been doing, and that you're leveraging your desire for adventure and that victor over victim mindset is so brilliant. And this is showing up in your day-to-day life, in the lives of your family, and now in the lives of your community and beyond. I cannot wait to see how this grows and develops and changes people literally around the United States, yes, and around the world. I see this shifting people everywhere, because I think it's so brilliant. So thank you, Kama, for what you're doing.
I just got shivers.
Oh, good. Those are little God bumps. God bumps. Yes. Oh, I love that. That's so cool, Kama. Well, thank you again for being here today, for sharing all of your resources that you used with your book. I think that's awesome. And for being an open book to share how you went through that process. That's great. And I'll make sure to link everything below. Take a look for Special Elliot, the story of a special needs sibling on Amazon. And I'll make sure to link it below so people can contribute. Thank you, Kama. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Alicia. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate this time and promoting all the work that I'm doing. So thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure, dear. We'll see you again soon. Wasn't she so much fun? I told you, she's awesome. Kama has been an inner circle client of mine. A couple of months ago is when she first joined. So we've been working together for a while to get this book up and rolling and into your hands to support you and to support her foundation so that the ripple effect can continue. If you are interested in getting her book or reaching out to her, just look at the description here below or in this podcast, and you can find all the details on how to reach out to her. And if you are looking for more resources on how you can win your pageant, I would love to help. I've got online courses, one-on-one coaching, and lots of other resources for you at winapageant.com.